Most men believe aura is something you either possess or lack from birth. They imagine it flows from wealth, position, or natural charisma. I am here to tell you they are profoundly mistaken. Aura is not a gift bestowed by fortune. It is a weapon forged through deliberate action, and I shall teach you to wield it with such precision that others will sense your presence before you speak a word. I have observed this phenomenon across decades of leadership, through the darkest hours when nations hung in the balance, and in the quietest rooms where destinies were decided. The men who commanded attention, who bent the will of others without raising their voice, who made entire assemblies fall silent with a single glance. They understood something that escapes the masses. True aura operates not through performance, but through unshakable internal authority. You see, most people confuse presence with pretense. They believe commanding respect requires theatrical displays, loud declarations, or constant self-promotion. But I have watched such men crumble the moment their stage was removed. Authentic aura runs deeper than surface performance. It emanates from a mind that has conquered itself first, a spirit that answers to no external validation, and a will that bends to no convenient pressure. Today, I shall reveal the precise mechanisms by which you construct this invisible armor, not through wishful thinking or temporary confidence tricks, but through systematic development of the qualities that make others instinctively defer to your judgment. When you master these principles, you will discover something remarkable. People will seek your opinion without you offering it. They will modify their behavior in your presence without you demanding it. They will remember your words long after louder voices have been forgotten. This is not about intimidation through fear or manipulation through deception. Such tactics create temporary compliance, but lasting resentment. True, aura inspires voluntary respect. It makes others want to align themselves with your vision because they sense the strength of your foundation. They recognize, perhaps without conscious awareness, that you operate from a place of genuine authority rather than desperate ambition. Before we proceed, understand this clearly. Building authentic aura requires you to abandon the comfortable illusions that keep most men weak. You must face the truth about your current limitations. You must acknowledge where you have been seeking approval rather than commanding respect. You must recognize how often you have diluted your position through unnecessary explanation or defensive justification. The path forward demands something most are unwilling to give. Absolute honesty about your motives, ruthless discipline in your development, and the courage to stand alone when others would have you compromised. But for those prepared to pay this price, the rewards extend far beyond personal influence. You become someone others can depend upon in crisis, someone who provides stability in chaos, someone whose mere presence elevates the quality of decisions being made. Let us begin with the first principle that separates those who command natural respect from those who forever chase it. Asterisk, asterisk, the foundation of unshakable presence. Asterisk, asterisk, I have learned that true aura begins not with how you present yourself to others, but with how completely you have mastered your own reaction. The man who can be provoked, who responds predictably to external pressure, who allows his emotions to dictate his responses, will never possess genuine authority. Others sense this instability, and they unconsciously classify him as manageable. The first discipline you must master is emotional sovereignty. This means developing the capacity to remain internally calm regardless of external turbulence, not the false calm of suppression, where you merely hide your reactions while they rage beneath the surface. True calm comes from such complete self-possession that external events cannot shake your fundamental equilibrium. I have witnessed this quality in the most effective leaders I have known. When crisis struck, when others panicked, when the very foundations seemed to tremble, these individuals maintained their center, not through indifference, but through such deep confidence in their ability to respond appropriately that external chaos could not penetrate their inner stability. This quality can be developed through systematic practice. Begin by observing your automatic reactions to minor irritations. When someone interrupts you, when plans change unexpectedly, when you encounter incompetence or delay, notice how quickly your internal state shifts, how readily you surrender your equilibrium to circumstances beyond your control. The practice is simple but demanding. Each time you feel that familiar surge of reactive emotion, pause. Do not speak immediately. Do not act from the impulse. Instead, create a moment of space between the trigger and your response. In that space, ask yourself what response would serve your larger purpose rather than simply releasing your immediate feeling. This is not about becoming emotionless. Emotion provides valuable information and energy, but you must become the director of your emotional responses rather than their victim. When you speak from genuine choice rather than automatic reaction, others sense the difference immediately. Your words carry more weight because they emerge from deliberate consideration rather than unconscious impulse. Asterisk, asterisk. The power of calculated silence. Asterisk, asterisk. Most men believe influence requires constant communication. They fill every pause with words, explain their reasoning at length, and seek to convince through volume of argument. I have discovered the opposite to be true. Strategic silence creates more impact than elaborate speech. I have observed that those who speak least often command the greatest attention when they do choose to speak. This occurs because silence creates anticipation. When others know you do not waste words, they listen more carefully to the words you do offer. Your rare statements carry the weight of considered judgment rather than casual opinion. Silence also provides you with crucial information. While others rush to fill conversational gaps, revealing their thoughts, concerns, and intentions, you remain an observer. You learn who seeks approval, who attempts manipulation, who possesses genuine confidence versus mere bravado. This intelligence becomes a significant advantage in all subsequent interaction. But silence must be purposeful, not merely the absence of speech due to uncertainty or fear. Powerful silence comes from having something meaningful to say, but choosing the optimal moment to say it. It demonstrates that you value your words too highly to spend them carelessly. Practice this deliberately. In your next significant conversation, speak half as much as feels natural. Listen not just to the words being spoken, but to the emotions beneath them, the agendas being advanced, the fears being revealed. You will discover that most people tell you far more than they intend when they believe you are simply a patient audience rather than someone gathering intelligence. When you do speak after periods of thoughtful silence, make your words count. Avoid filler phrases, unnecessary qualifications, or defensive explanations. State your position clearly and then return to silence. Allow others to respond to your certainty rather than your uncertainty. Asterisk, asterisk, developing uncompromising standards. Asterisk, asterisk, I have learned that aura cannot exist without standards. Not arbitrary rules imposed to appear important, but genuine principles that guide your decisions regardless of convenience or social pressure. The man without fixed standards bends with every wind, and others sense this flexibility as weakness. Your standards must be visible through your action, not proclaimed through your words. When you consistently choose principle over popularity, when you maintain your position despite opposition, when you refuse to compromise your values for temporary advantage, others begin to recognize that you operate from a different foundation than most men. This creates a form of respect that cannot be manufactured through technique or performance. People may not always agree with your positions, but they learn to trust that your positions emerge from genuine conviction rather than calculated positioning. This reliability becomes magnetic to others who crave authentic leadership in a world of convenient flexibility. But understand this clearly. Having standards means accepting that some people will not approve of your choices. It means being prepared to stand alone when your principles conflict with popular opinion. Most men avoid this discomfort by adjusting their standards to match their circumstances. This adjustment destroys any possibility of genuine aura because others sense the underlying uncertainty. Choose your standards carefully, but once chosen, defend them consistently. Let your reliability become your reputation. When others know that certain principles are non-negotiable for you, they begin to see you as someone who can be counted upon when situations become difficult. This dependability becomes a cornerstone of natural authority. The man who compromises his standards for temporary advantage teaches others that his standards are merely suggestion. But the man who maintains his principles despite cost demonstrates that he possesses something more valuable than immediate comfort. Others instinctively recognize this strength and adjust their behavior accordingly. Asterisk, asterisk, the art of commanding without speaking. Asterisk, asterisk, I have discovered that true dominance requires no announcement. The moment you must declare your authority, you reveal that you do not possess it. Real power whispers while weakness shouts, and I shall teach you to master this distinction with surgical precision. Most men exhaust themselves in displays of importance. They speak loudly in meetings, interrupt conversations, demand acknowledgement of their contributions. Yet I have watched these same individuals become invisible the moment genuine crisis arrives. Why? Because their presence depended entirely on performance rather than substance. The men I have known who wielded genuine influence understood something profound. Authority flows not from what you say about yourself, but from what others discover about you through observation. When your capabilities reveal themselves naturally through your actions, others form their own conclusions about your worth. These self-generated assessments carry infinitely more weight than any claims you might make. Consider how this operates in practice. When you enter a room and immediately establish your credentials, list your achievements, or position yourself as the expert, you create suspicion. Others wonder why you need their validation so desperately. But when you contribute meaningfully to discussions without announcing your qualifications, when you solve problems without claiming credit, when your competence becomes evident through results rather than rhetoric, people begin to seek your judgment voluntarily. I have learned to let my record speak before I do, not through false modesty or calculated humility, but through genuine focus on outcomes rather than recognition. When your attention remains fixed on solving problems rather than receiving praise, others sense this authenticity immediately. They recognize someone whose ego does not require constant feeding, whose confidence runs deep enough to allow accomplishments to stand without commentary. This approach requires tremendous discipline because it demands you surrender immediate gratification for long-term influence. Most men cannot resist the temptation to claim credit, to ensure others notice their contributions, to position themselves favorably in every interaction. But this hunger for immediate acknowledgement destroys the very authority they seek to build. Asterisk, asterisk, the mathematics of respect, asterisk, asterisk. I have observed a precise formula that governs how respect accumulates in human relationships. Respect equals consistency multiplied by time, minus the number of times you have sought validation. Each moment you demonstrate reliable judgment without requiring acknowledgement. You make a deposit in an account that compounds over time, but every instance where you chase approval, you make a withdrawal that costs far more than the temporary satisfaction provides. Most men fail to understand this mathematics. They believe respect can be earned quickly through impressive displays or forceful assertion. I have learned that genuine respect accumulates slowly through countless small demonstrations of character, competence, and reliability. Others observe these patterns subconsciously, gradually, shifting their assessment of your capabilities based on accumulated evidence rather than isolated incidents. This means you must think in longer timelines than most people consider. While others optimize for immediate impact, you optimize for enduring influence. While others seek to win today's argument, you focus on building tomorrow's authority. This patience becomes a competitive advantage because most people operate with much shorter attention spans. The key lies in becoming someone others can predict in the best possible way. Not predictable in your opinions or reactions, but predictable in your commitment to excellence, your adherence to principle, and your focus on meaningful results. When people know they can depend on you to approach situations with wisdom and integrity, they begin to defer to your judgment even before you offer it. I have seen this pattern repeat across decades of leadership. The individuals who commanded lasting respect were those who consistently demonstrated sound judgment over extended periods. Their influence grew not because they sought it, but because others recognized the value of their perspective through repeated observation. Asterisk, asterisk, the discipline of strategic positioning. Asterisk, asterisk. I have learned that where you position yourself in any situation communicates more about your confidence than anything you might say. Most men either push themselves to the center of attention or retreat to comfortable invisibility. Both positions reveal insecurity. True confidence expresses itself through strategic positioning that serves larger purposes rather than personal comfort. In every gathering, there exists an optimal position that maximizes your ability to observe, contribute meaningfully when appropriate, and maintain flexibility in how you engage. This position rarely coincides with either the spotlight or the shadows. Instead, it allows you to influence the direction of conversations and decisions without appearing to dominate or withdraw. I have practiced identifying this optimal position in various settings. In formal meetings, it might be the seat that allows you to observe all participants while remaining slightly removed from the main debate. In social gatherings, it could be the location that puts you in natural conversation with key individuals without obvious positioning. In negotiations, it involves the physical and psychological stance that projects calm confidence without aggressive dominance. The principle extends beyond physical positioning to psychological positioning. You must learn to position yourself as someone who contributes value without needing to control outcomes, who offers wisdom without insisting others accept it, who demonstrates strength without threatening others' dignity. This balance requires continuous calibration because each situation demands slightly different adjustments. Most men position themselves reactively, responding to how others treat them or where circumstances place them. But I have discovered that proactive positioning allows you to shape interactions before they fully develop. When you choose your position deliberately rather than accepting what others assign you, you maintain agency over how situations unfold. This skill develops through conscious practice. In your next significant interaction, arrive early and choose your position thoughtfully rather than accepting the first available option. Notice how this choice affects the entire dynamic of what follows. You will discover that small adjustments in positioning create disproportionate changes in how others perceive and interact with you. Asterisk, asterisk. The weapon of deliberate scarcity. Asterisk, asterisk. I have discovered that availability destroys value, while scarcity creates desire. The man who makes himself constantly accessible, who responds immediately to every request, who accommodates every schedule, teaches others that his time possesses no particular worth. But the individual who guards his availability carefully creates the impression that access to him represents a privilege rather than a right. This principle operates with mathematical precision across all forms of human interaction. When something becomes easily obtainable, people value it less regardless of its actual quality or usefulness. When the same thing requires effort to acquire, its perceived value increases dramatically. Your time, attention, and expertise follow these same rules whether you acknowledge them or not. Most men fear that setting boundaries around their availability will cost them opportunities or relationships. I have found the opposite to be true. When you demonstrate through your actions that your time has value, others begin to treat it more respectfully. When you show that access to your expertise requires proper context and timing, people approach you more thoughtfully. But understand this clearly. Scarcity must be authentic rather than manufactured. If you create artificial barriers simply to appear important, others will sense the manipulation and respond accordingly. True scarcity emerges from genuine focus on meaningful priorities rather than calculated positioning. I have learned to be genuinely selective about how I invest my time and energy, not because I wish to appear exclusive, but because I have important work that requires protection from constant interruption. This authenticity makes the scarcity sustainable and believable rather than tiresome and transparent. The practice involves making conscious choices about when you are available and for what purposes. Instead of accepting every meeting request, every social invitation, every call for your input, you evaluate each opportunity against your larger objective. You say yes to requests that align with your priorities and no to those that do not, regardless of who makes them. When you implement this discipline consistently, something remarkable occurs. People begin to prepare more thoroughly before approaching you. They present their requests more clearly and concisely. They show greater respect for the time you do choose to share. Your interactions become more focused and productive because others have invested more thought in making them worthwhile. Asterisk, asterisk. The authority of measured response, asterisk, asterisk. I have observed that most men destroy their influence through the speed and intensity of their reactions. They respond to every provocation, answer every question immediately, and react emotionally to unexpected development. This responsiveness, which they mistake for engagement, actually signals that they can be easily controlled by external circumstances. The man who responds instantly to every stimulus teaches others that he operates reactively rather than strategically. His predictable responses become tools that others can use to manipulate his behavior. But the individual who maintains space between trigger and response demonstrates that he operates from internal direction rather than external pressure. This does not mean becoming slow or unresponsive. It means developing the discipline to pause, consider, and choose your response based on what serves your larger purpose rather than what feels most natural in the moment. Even a brief pause before responding creates the impression that your words emerge from deliberate thought rather than automatic reaction. I have practiced this discipline in increasingly challenging circumstances. When faced with unexpected criticism, instead of defending immediately, I pause to consider what response would be most effective. When presented with urgent requests, instead of agreeing automatically, I evaluate whether immediate action truly serves the situation or merely relieves social pressure. The results of this practice extend far beyond individual interactions. When people know that your responses emerge from careful consideration, they place more weight on your words and decisions. They recognize that you operate from a deeper level of thoughtfulness than most people demonstrate, and this recognition translates into increased respect and influence. This measured approach to response creates what I call the gravitational effect. Others begin to orbit around your thoughtfulness rather than trying to pull you into their chaos. They sense that engaging with you requires more preparation and consideration than engaging with reactive individuals, and this requirement elevates the quality of all your interaction. The discipline extends to how you handle praise and criticism alike. When others compliment your work, resist the urge to immediately deflect or elaborate. A simple acknowledgement followed by redirection to the work itself demonstrates security that needs no external validation. When faced with criticism, avoid defensive explanations or counterattacks. Instead, consider whether the criticism contains useful information, extract what serves you, and discard the rest without emotional investment. I have learned that the pause itself becomes a form of communication. It signals that you operate from a different standard than most people, that your words and actions emerge from deeper consideration. This creates anticipation around your responses and gives them greater impact when they do arrive. Asterisk, asterisk, the magnetism of unshakable purpose. Asterisk, asterisk, I have discovered that nothing creates aura more powerfully than unwavering commitment to something larger than personal comfort. The man who stands for nothing attracts no one, but the individual who dedicates himself to meaningful objectives with complete conviction becomes magnetic to others who hunger for authentic purpose. Most men scatter their energy across dozens of minor interests and temporary enthusiasms. They chase whatever promises immediate gratification or social approval, abandoning each pursuit the moment it becomes challenging. This inconsistency destroys any possibility of genuine influence because others cannot predict what you will commit to or abandon next. I have observed that true leaders possess an almost frightening clarity about what matters most to them. They organize their entire existence around advancing these central purposes, making decisions that consistently reinforce their primary objectives, even when doing so costs them short-term advantages. This clarity creates several powerful effects simultaneously. First, it eliminates the internal conflict that weakens most men. When you know precisely what you stand for, decisions become simpler, and your energy flows in coherent directions rather than dispersing across competing priorities. Second, it attracts others who share similar values but lack the courage to pursue them so completely. They recognize in you the conviction they wish they possessed. But perhaps most importantly, unwavering purpose creates predictability in the best possible sense. Others learn that you can be counted upon to act in accordance with your principles regardless of external pressure. This reliability becomes enormously valuable in situations where most people compromise their positions for temporary convenience. I have tested this principle across decades of leadership challenges. When facing decisions that pit popular opinion against my core convictions, I have consistently chosen principle over popularity, not from stubbornness, but from understanding that authority built on convenience collapses the moment convenience shifts. The key lies in choosing purposes worthy of this level of commitment. Shallow objectives cannot sustain the intensity required to create genuine magnetism. But when you dedicate yourself to improving conditions for others, advancing important principles, or creating lasting value, the depth of your commitment becomes visible to everyone around you. Asterisk, asterisk, the psychology of controlled intensity. Asterisk, asterisk, I have learned that most men either burn too hot or too cold in their interactions. They overwhelm others with excessive enthusiasm or bore them with lifeless detachment. Neither extreme creates the optimal environment for influence. True aura emerges from controlled intensity that can be adjusted based on what each situation requires. Think of this as mastering your personal temperature. In moments that demand high energy and decisive action, you must be capable of complete focus and powerful engagement. But in situations requiring patience and observation, you must be able to maintain calm alertness without appearing disengaged. This range gives you tremendous tactical advantages. I have practiced developing this control by studying how different circumstances call for different levels of intensity. In crisis situations, people need to see that you can match the seriousness of the moment with appropriate energy and focus. In delicate negotiations, they need to observe that you can remain patient and thoughtful despite pressure. In social settings, they respond to engagement that feels genuine but not overwhelming. The mistake most men make is operating at only one level of intensity, regardless of context. They bring the same energy to casual conversations and critical decisions, to moments of celebration and periods of difficulty. This inflexibility limits their effectiveness and makes them appear either inappropriately intense or insufficiently engaged. Controlled intensity also means knowing when to reveal your full capabilities and when to keep them in reserve. I have discovered that showing glimpses of deeper capacity while maintaining overall composure creates intrigue and respect. Others sense that you possess more strength than you typically display, which makes them more cautious about testing your limits. The practice involves becoming conscious of your energy output and learning to modulate it deliberately. Before entering any significant interaction, consider what level of intensity would be most effective for achieving your objectives. Too little energy and you appear disinterested. Too much and you overwhelm the situation. The optimal level draws others in while maintaining your ability to increase or decrease as circumstances change. Asterisk, asterisk, the architecture of lasting influence, asterisk, asterisk. I have observed that temporary influence can be gained through various tactics and techniques, but lasting influence requires systematic construction over extended periods. Like building a cathedral, you must think in decades rather than days, creating a foundation strong enough to support increasing levels of responsibility and trust. You now possess the blueprint for constructing order that commands without demanding, influences without manipulating, and dominates through presence rather than performance. I have shown you that true authority flows not from what others grant you, but from what you become within yourself. These principles work because they align with the deepest patterns of human psychology. People instinctively recognize authentic strengths and defer to genuine competence. When you master emotional sovereignty, strategic silence, uncompromising standards, and controlled intensity, you create a gravitational field that draws others into your orbit. But remember this above all else. Aura built on superficial techniques crumbles under pressure. Only aura forged through genuine character development creates lasting influence. The man who applies these lessons while maintaining his integrity becomes truly formidable. The one who uses them to serve purposes larger than himself becomes legendary. I have given you the tools. Whether you build something magnificent or merely adequate depends entirely on the depth of your commitment to becoming worthy of the influence you seek. Choose wisely, for the world has desperate need of men who lead through strength of character rather than manipulation of circumstance.